a potent but gentle Lysergamide. Yo, what's up? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report is coming from IMG 9999 off Eurowood, where they took ETH-LAD. And here's the full report details. Alright, so here's our first report on the Lysergamide ETH-LAD. This is a type of acid that I personally have experience with. In fact, I've had some of my most powerful experiences with acid with ETH-LAD. The experience I got from it makes me feel like there's something deeper here than just acid. Something very weird and alien. I wouldn't say it's the most enjoyable, it's more wacky and trippy, at least in my experience. We'll see here a good amount of effects that can happen, which can vary quite a bit, and we'll break down ETH-LAD in a future video. I'm sure you'll enjoy this, so without further ado, let's dive right into this. I've only had 2 experiences with ETH-LAD so far, but I'm a fairly experienced tripper, and I've tried most Lysergamides that have ever become publicly available. I try to keep my tolerance low, though I still trip once a month / once every 2 months. My first trial was with 100 micrograms. Dropped around noon on an empty stomach. Come up was pretty long and kind of intense for me. I felt nauseous for the first hour and a half, but nothing unbearable honestly. Just uncomfortable. The weirdest part was the sedating body high. I had planned a hiking trip with my girlfriend, but we actually stopped under a tree shade and just waited for the come up to happen because it felt impossible to move. We just wanted to lay down. During the whole come up, I actually felt kinda numb-minded. Not a single psychedelic thought. I was beginning to think I was given clonazepam waters instead of ETH-LAD, when at the 2-hour mark, everything developed. Visuals were intense. Not 300 microgram ETH-LAD intense, but they were very present, defined, and complex. Texturing, clouds going insane, very acid-like visuals, but less morphing and more fractal. Glittery patterns overlaying on surfaces. Extreme color enhancement. I didn't experience much closed-eye visuals though. My ego felt more or less intact during the trip, if that makes sense. Another way to say it, even when I felt clearly on drugs, the headspace was not very confusing. I felt like myself, and I felt in control of the trip at all times. I wouldn't describe it as precisely as lucid, but it was not demanding in any sense. I felt like the fact that my thoughts weren't racing through abstract topics or connecting with the whole universe. This made it easier to look inside myself and into my own emotions. I felt very emotionally volatile. The trip was the last weekend before I departed on a 4-month work trip without my girl. So the topic of love and longing was constant during the trip. We cried a lot, but it felt very cleansing. Despite the strong emotional component, the headspace was mostly serene and peaceful. I didn't get any body issues after the come up. The come down was pretty smooth. I didn't get any jaw clenching or residual stimulation after the trip was gone. It lasted roughly 9 hours. My second trip was a solo trip, for which I used about 50 micrograms. Using a lesser amount actually eased the body load of the come up quite a bit, and I feel like this made for a better trip overall. I was surprised by how strong it hit me. At the first hour after ingestion, I started to feel clear mood-lifting, serotonergic activity. Then by the second hour, I was starting to feel the trick kicking in. I did some reading, and it really enhanced the psychedelic headspace. I was walking through the woods, after a gentle morning rain, listening to music on my headphones. Everything felt beautiful. Once again, it made me feel at peace, but also really excited about the future and everything that was going on in my life. I reflected once again on the topic of love, and also art, creation, and how domination and power are a necessary dimension of every act of creation and every human intervention. I felt as if everything in nature existed as the result of forces that struggle, through sheer power and even violence, to maintain themselves organized amidst the cosmic chaos. I felt at peace with that thought, and also I felt humbled by nature. As it happens with mid-low dose psychedelic trips, it allowed for a less hectic headspace and more coherent thoughts. I think I enjoyed it more than my first trip, but also because I felt no body discomfort at all during the come up. Visuals weren't as intense as the whole blotter, but they were definitely there, especially in the clouds. Something weird that I noticed is that both times, I felt suddenly very hungry during the come up. Never had that happen before. I have liked my exploration of this compound so far. I feel like Shogun's description on Tikal is spot on. I sometimes prefer LSD's crazy mind trip, but this is an emotionally rich and intellectually active compound, easygoing at the doses I tried. I look forward to take 100 micrograms, but taking a half a tap first, and an hour later, the other half. I have a feeling that doing that will allow for an intense trip, but at the same time, ease the come up.